At my brother's wedding, my parents demanded the deed to my paid-off townhouse. When I refused, Mom slapped me hard enough to split my lip. I walked out and opened my laptop. 40 minutes later, 2 officers entered the reception and Mom dropped the keys. The deed to my townhouse landed on the table between the champagne flute and the small gold-placed card that said Adrian in cursive. And my mother put her finger on the top right corner and turned it around so it faced me. Her ring caught the ballroom light. The place card slid a quarter inch. The deed sat there like something she had brought from home in her purse. Because that is where it had come from. She had let herself into my townhouse 2 nights ago while I was at Brady's rehearsal dinner and taken it out of the fireproof box in my closet. I did not know that yet. I would know it in 9 minutes. The head table at Brady and Whitney's wedding was set for 8. 6 seats still empty. Cocktail hour was still going on in the room next door. The string quartet was playing something without words. My father stood behind my mother's chair with his hand on the top rail. His rented tuxedo did not fit him at the shoulders. He never rents anything. That was the second strange thing. The first was that they had asked me to come to the head table 20 minutes early for a quick family moment. The water glass came up to my mouth and back down without me drinking. Adrian, we need you to sign this before the ceremony ends. Your father spoke to a notary. He is waiting in the coat room. 10 minutes and it is done. The deed was mine. My name at the top. 3 bedrooms. Corner lot on Kenwood Street. Paid off at 6:04 in the evening on a Wednesday 2 Novembers ago. The address I had been quietly building toward for 11 years. Sign what? A quitclaim. To your father and me, we will hold it a short period. It is a family need. Do this before your brother comes in. My hands stayed in my lap. My father cleared his throat. Son, do not do this today. Brady deserves a clean day. The knife on my bread plate had a small mark of butter on the tip. I looked at that instead of at him. You are asking me to sign over a paid-off townhouse in the coat room of a wedding reception. Because it is Brady's clean day. You confused being quiet with being smart a long time ago, Adrian. Quiet is what a mouse is. Smart is what your brother is. Sign the paper. Do it while your mother is still willing to be in the same room as you. Because at some point in the next hour, she is going to decide she is done. And when your mother decides she is done, she is done. Ask your grandmother's ghost. She learned that one. My mother's voice went into the register she uses when she is done being polite in public. You have never given this family anything but silence and small resentments. Brady built a marriage. Brady built a business. Brady gave us a name we could put on a Christmas card. You gave us 13 years of holidays you did not attend and a house you did not have the decency to invite your own mother into. Do you know what your grandmother said about you the year before she died? She said, he is the one who counts. She did not mean it kindly. She meant you were the child who was going to sit in a small room with a spreadsheet and a grudge and never build a single thing anyone else could stand in. Sign the paper. It will be the first useful thing you have done since you were 9 years old. Sign it, or by Friday every partner at your firm and every client whose name I already know will be on the phone with me. And you will be a man with a townhouse and no career to walk out of it into. The couple at the next table had stopped talking. The woman's fork stayed halfway up. Her husband kept his eyes on his water. The waiter with the pepper mill did a small turn on his heel and moved off toward another table. The candle between us did not move. I almost answered the way I have answered her in my head for 20 years. The answer stayed where it was. No. My mother leaned across the table. Her voice dropped. Then you are the last mistake I am willing to make. I am done pretending you are one of us. Sign it or die a stranger to me. Her hand came across my face before the last word had finished leaving her mouth. Open palm. Hard. My grandfather's watch clicked against my jaw because I had lifted my wrist half an inch to put down the water glass. The inside of my lower lip split against my teeth, copper on my tongue. The small clip that had been holding a piece of her hair back from her ear fell out and landed on the toe of my dress shoe. My father did not move. His hand stayed on the chair. Nobody in the ballroom saw. The doors were closed. The quartet was still playing. The deed went into my inside jacket pocket, folded once. My mother's hand was still up where it had been. She lowered it slowly. "Where are you going?" Silence answered her. "Adrian, you do not walk out of a wedding." The chair behind me stayed pushed out. My father's shoulder brushed mine on the way past, across the ballroom, past the DJ booth, past the seating chart on its easel, past the coat room where a notary I had never met stood with a leather folio pretending to look at his phone. His eyes went to my mouth. His eyes went back to the phone very fast. Out into the corridor. Left at the marble column. Down to the small mezzanine room the hotel calls the library, which they rent to grooms for last cigarettes and last calls. Empty. The door closed behind me. Grandpa Emmett's Belova on my wrist read 4:19. The laptop opened at 4:20. The officers walked in at 4:59. Before the emails, 2 things about the townhouse. If you do not know what the townhouse was, you do not know what my mother's hand did. The house on Kenwood Street was built in 1957 by a bricklayer named Emmett Marks. Emmett Marks was my grandfather. He was 34 years old when he laid the first course, and he laid every course after that himself. He and my grandmother Ruth lived there 41 years. My mother was born in the front bedroom. I spent every summer from age 4 to age 10 sleeping on a cot in the back sunroom. Grandpa Emmett taught me to solder copper pipe in that garage. Grandma Ruth taught me to read a map at that kitchen table. Grandpa Emmett died on the front porch in 1997, holding a can of iced tea in a plastic chair. I was 5. In April of 1998, my mother and father sat my grandmother down at the same kitchen table where she had taught me to read a map, and they told her they were losing their own house. That was not quite true. They had refinanced twice and could not service the equity loan they had taken out. Grandma Ruth signed the Kenwood house over to them that afternoon. They sold it in June for $127,000. Grandma Ruth moved into a 1-bedroom apartment above a hardware store 6 blocks from where she had been born. She died in that apartment in 2009 in a chair by the window that faced a parking lot. My mother did not attend the funeral because she and my father were on a cruise they had booked before the pneumonia turned. In 2019, the Kenwood house came up at auction. The family who had bought it from my parents had sold it. The second owner let it slide into foreclosure. I bought it back for $311,000 in cash I had been building since I was 22. I paid it off in November of last year. I never told my parents. Not the purchase, not the address, not the payoff. That was the deal I had made with myself the day I moved in. I am 33. I have not been in my parents' house in 6 years. Brady and I speak on birthdays and holidays, and not otherwise. I came to the wedding because my mother put a handwritten note in an envelope and sent it to my office, and it said, "Come please, he is still your brother." She had never written a note in her life. The ink was smeared, and the ink of a person writing a real note does not smear. The ink of a person writing a note as a prop smears every time. I should have paid attention. I work as a certified fraud examiner. My firm has an office in the same downtown tower as the State Attorney General's Financial Crimes Division. Angela Prescott runs that division. Angela and I have had coffee once a month for 31 months. Angela had taught me a very specific kind of patience. She taught me that the day a case closes is not the day you have collected every piece of evidence. The day a case closes is the day the last person you needed to underestimate you finally does. My mother had underestimated me for 33 years. She had picked the wrong afternoon to close the gap. If this is the story you needed this weekend, subscribe to Family Secret Tales and stay with me. Chapter 1 was the deed. Chapter 2 is the loan. At 4:20, the first email went to Angela with 3 attachments. A security camera clip from my townhouse showing my mother entering at 11:47 p.m. Thursday with a key I had not given her, and coming back out at 12:03 a.m., carrying a folded piece of paper. A screenshot of a loan application submitted at First Meridian Private Lending on Tuesday morning for $2.3 million, with a forged signature that was supposed to be mine, listing my townhouse as collateral. A photograph I had taken with my phone 8 minutes earlier of the inside of my split lip. Angela had told me 31 months ago that she needed one more count against Roland and Cheryl Marks before she executed the arrests she had been building toward. She said, "Give me one more count, and give me one they cannot argue was an accident." Aggravated assault by a parent against an adult child in a public venue. Physical theft of a real estate instrument from the victim's home. A loan application with a forged signature naming that property as collateral. And the address of a hotel ballroom where the two primary subjects of a 3-year investigation were about to sit down for salad course in front of 400 witnesses. Angela's reply arrived at 4:23. "We are 20 minutes out. Stay in the room. Do not go back to the ballroom yet." At 4:24, the second email went to the loan officer at First Meridian, who had processed the application on Tuesday. Her name was in the document metadata. Forged deed. Forged signature. Video of when my mother had entered my house. Angela copied. Preserve every record. Hold the file in whatever status she was permitted to hold it in. Her reply came at 4:31. She had already flagged the file. She was calling her compliance officer. At 4:34, the third email went to the general counsel of Ridgeline Holdings ALC, the shell company my parents had operated for 3 years. That email did not go from my personal account. It went from an account Angela had set up in her office 2 months ago, copied to the AG, copied to the State Department of Real Estate, copied to the FBI field office in the city, which had opened a preliminary file 2 weeks ago that only 3 people knew about. Ridgeline Holdings had filed quitclaim deeds transferring 7 properties from 7 elderly homeowners into the LLC's name over 3 years. All 7 deeds carried notarized signatures. 4 of the 7 homeowners had been in memory care at the time of the transfer. 2 had been in hospice. 1. A woman named Mrs. Eanes Bloom, who had lived on Sycamore Terrace for 51 years, had learned about the transfer on the 17th of last month when her granddaughter opened a piece of mail addressed to the property owner of record. Mrs. Bloom had a cardiac event that afternoon in her kitchen. She died at Providence Regional at 8:40 p.m. That same night, next to a pot of green beans still on the stove. Her granddaughter called my office 9 days later because a friend at the Bar Association had given her my name. I sat down at her kitchen table 3 days after that and looked at a paper that carried my mother's initials at the bottom of the notary block. That was the day the case had a name in my head. Angela's next text came at 4:52. Officers on the elevator. 2 uniformed and 1 plainclothes. 2 minutes. I almost stepped out into the corridor to watch. I did not. Grandpa Emmett had told me a long time ago that the man who watches is the man who wins. But the man who has to watch every second of the winning is the man who is not sure he has won. The library door opened at 4:59. Angela had sent a plainclothes lieutenant named Hollis and 2 uniforms I did not recognize. Hollis had gray at his temples and a small notebook in his hand. His eyes went to my mouth. He raised his phone. Photograph, wrote something. "Mr. Marks, we are going to walk together to the ballroom. My officers will enter first. I will enter with you. Do not speak until spoken to. Do not stand next to your mother. Stand where I put you." A single nod. That was the answer. "Are you steady, Mr. Marks?" Another nod. "Then let's go." The ballroom doors were open now. Cocktail hour had ended 6 minutes early because the DJ had cued a song that meant "Please take your seats." 400 people were seated at 40 round tables. The head table was full. Brady in his tuxedo, Whitney in the dress, my mother at the far end, my father next to her, 2 of Brady's college friends, a cousin. The empty seats were mine and the maid of honors. The maid of honor had come in behind Whitney and was already sitting. My napkin was folded into a rose on my plate. The place card still said Adrian in cursive. The DJ turned the music down. The photographer's camera came up before the officers did. Hollis walked in first. Uniforms behind him. I was at his right shoulder. Every fork in the room stopped. Every glass came down. 400 chairs adjusted at once. My mother saw me first. Her eyes went to my mouth and stayed there. My father's head did not turn. He had gone still the way a man goes still on a highway when he sees a state trooper in the mirror. Hollis reached the head table. His voice did not rise. Cheryl Marks. Roland Marks. Brady Marks. Whitney Ballard, please stand. Brady stood. Whitney did not move at first, then stood. My father took a full 3 seconds and stood. My mother reached for the clutch beside her champagne flute. Inside the clutch was a small ring with 3 keys on it. One of those keys was mine. Mrs. Marks, stand up, please, she stood. The keys were still in her hand. You are all under arrest. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. Whitney's voice went up on the second word. This is a mistake. She looked past Hollis. She found me. Her eyes landed on the split. You did this. Everyone in this family warned me about you. Your own mother warned me about you 6 months ago at brunch. She said, watch out for Adrian. He counts everything and forgives nothing. She was right. Look at you, on your brother's wedding day, because your feelings got hurt over a piece of paper. I hope you understand what you just took from me. I hope it keeps you warm in that little house of yours. Hollis. Quiet. Over her shoulder. Ma'am. Face forward. You have the right to an attorney. Whitney's chin went. She looked at Brady. Brady's hand had gone to the tablecloth. He was staring at a bread plate. Brady, tell them. Brady's mouth opened. Nothing came out. My mother's fingers opened. The keys fell onto the head table between the salad plate and the little rose that was still my napkin. Her house key. My key. And the third key I did not recognize until later, which turned out to be Mrs. Innsbloom's front door key on Sycamore Terrace, which my mother had been carrying in her clutch for 8 weeks because she had never quite gotten around to throwing it away. The photographer's camera made a small clicking sound. Nobody stopped him. The uniformed officer took my mother's elbow to guide her out from behind the head table. 10 feet from me, she turned her head. Not to him. To me. Her voice did not need to rise. The whole ballroom was already quiet. Adrian, look at your mother. Look, the watch on my wrist ticked once. You are exactly what I said you were when you were 9 years old and started keeping a notebook of what your brother got that you did not. Everything I built in this town, every dinner I hosted for the deacons, every school board seat, every Christmas card, all of it, gone, because a boy with a pen and a grudge decided today was the day. Your grandmother told me once, at the end, that she wished she had never signed the house over. I told her that was between her and God. But you should know that the last thing your grandmother wanted was to die alone in that apartment above the hardware store. And she did. And you were 14 years old and you did not visit her for the last 6 weeks of her life. Do not sit on any porch pretending you are the good one. There are no good ones. There are just the ones who count and the ones who forget. I forget. You count. Enjoy the count. Her wrists came up on their own. The officer cuffed her. At table 19, a woman started crying, not for her, but because the sound of cuffs going on a woman in a cream dress at the head table of a wedding is a sound a room does not know how to hold. The officer walked my mother out. She did not turn her head again. The 8 things that happened in the 28 days after that afternoon are not summaries. A public arrest is a starting gun. Everything that had been quietly true for 3 years came out of the ground at the same time, and it did not come out politely. Tuesday morning at 11, 70 hours after the arrest. My father is on the front porch of the house on Maple and Cavendish, drinking coffee from a styrofoam cup he brought home from the courthouse cafeteria. My mother was remanded Sunday on a felony murder predicate connected to Mrs. Bloom, denied bail. My father had gotten out on $250,000 his brother came up with by putting a lien on a body shop. A repo truck pulls up. 2 men. 1 clipboard. AG's Financial Crimes Division has frozen every Ridgeline account. The 2022 Cadillac Escalade in the driveway is Ridgeline collateral. It goes up on the hook. My father does not move. The tow truck goes east on Cavendish. He puts the styrofoam cup down on the porch rail. He does not pick it back up. His sister told me. The cup was still there when the sun went down. Wednesday afternoon certified letter. State Secretary of State. 2 pages. The Notary Commission of Cheryl A. Marks, Commission number 44217C, is permanently revoked. Her notary journal is subpoenaed. The $10,000 commission bond is forfeit. My mother had run a home-based signing business called Marks Notary and Signing Services for 19 years. The sign hung on the porch. She had 241 5-star Google reviews. My father took the sign down Wednesday afternoon. The porch nail stayed. The wood underneath the sign was 2 shades lighter than the wood around it. My mother had personally notarized 31 fraudulent quitclaim deeds. She had sworn in her journal that 7 elderly homeowners had appeared before her. 4 had never left their memory care units. 1 had been on hospice. 1 had been Mrs. Inns Bloom, who had been at a doctor's appointment across town on the date the journal claimed she was in my mother's kitchen. 31 separate perjury counts. Consecutive sentencing possible. Tuesday night, 11 days later, the ruling elders of Living Water Fellowship met in a room that seats 22. 19 filled. 3 had been excused because they were named in the AG's affidavit as character references my mother had listed in her notary renewals. My father had served as an ordained deacon since 2010. 15 years. Finance Committee, 11 of them. The vote was 19-0. Deacon status revoked. Membership placed under discipline. A statement was drafted for the pulpit. My father was permitted to write a letter of repentance. He did not write one. Sunday morning, the pastor read the statement. My father drove past the church at 10:47 a.m. and did not stop. His sister was in the 3rd pew. She said 15 people cried during the reading, and none of them cried for my father. Friday, 6:11 p.m., the group chat. 48 people. Church women. 2 of my mother's sisters. A cousin. Brady's mother-in-law. My mother's closest friend since 1988 was named Corinne. On Friday, Corinne sent one message. Cheryl, I have been thinking about Innis Bloom all week. She sat in the pew behind me every Sunday for 6 years. She trusted you. I am removing myself from this chat. I do not want a phone call from Roland. I am sorry. Corinne left. Corinne's daughter left. 2 church women left. My mother's sister left. Brady's mother-in-law left. Then left a note under my father's windshield wiper the next morning at church that read only, "We are withdrawing our support for Whitney's marriage. Please do not contact us." By Sunday, 4 people were still in the chat, and none of them had said a word in 6 days. The last message in the chat, frozen at the top, was my mother's rehearsal dinner photo of a floral arrangement, captioned, "God is so good." Front page, Ridgemont Sentinel, Monday morning. Headline in 6 words. Local couple charged in elder fraud. Below the headline, Mrs. Innis Bloom's granddaughter, Yasmin Bloom Reyes, on the courthouse steps holding a photograph of her grandmother. 3 other victim families with her. 2 adult daughters. A grandson. A widower whose late wife's name was on one of the deeds. Yasmin Bloom Reyes spoke into a microphone for 4 minutes. She named my mother. She named my father. She named Ridgeline. She said the words, "My grandmother did not sign this." Local news picked it up by Tuesday. Regional by Wednesday. A national outlet by Thursday. The Sentinel ran a second photograph next to the first. My parents being walked out of the ballroom in tuxedo and cream dress, in handcuffs. 400 people behind them. The wedding photographer had licensed it for a small fee. His name was in the credit line. His phone had been ringing all weekend. Thursday night into Friday morning, week 2. Nobody saw it. Nobody was charged. Friday morning, my father came out to get the newspaper and stopped halfway down the walk. Someone had spray painted one word on the garage door, in red paint, in letters 2 feet high. Thieves, underneath, in smaller letters, ask about Eins. My father stood on the walk for 11 minutes. He called the police. They took photographs, filed a report, said this kind of thing usually did not repeat. My father called 3 painters. 2 did not call back. The third was booked for Monday. On Sunday afternoon, someone painted a second word. Thieves on the left. Murderers on the right. The painter canceled Monday morning. My father tried mineral spirits and a sponge. It smeared. He sat on the front step until dark. The streetlight came on before he moved. County holding facility, Thursday, 10:14 p.m., 20 days in. A corrections officer named Sepulveda found my mother sitting on the concrete floor of her cell, back against the wall, holding a piece of paper. The intake list of her personal possessions. She had asked to see it. Under jewelry, it read 1 wedding band. Gold, initials CM and RM inside. She had been holding it for 2 hours. She was not moving. She was not crying. She was reading 2 lines with her wedding ring on them, the way a person reads a menu in a language they do not speak. Sepulveda came back at midnight. My mother was still holding the paper. Sepulveda took it from her hand. My mother let it go. She lay down on the mattress with her face to the wall. Angela texted me Friday morning. She is refusing food since Tuesday. Refusing counsel. Refusing to shower. She is not doing well. Just information. I read the text 3 times. No answer went back. The last week. Wednesday, the U.S. Attorney's Office added federal wire fraud, mail fraud, and interstate money laundering. Federal exposure alone up to 40 years. Thursday, EAR's Criminal Investigation Division opened a parallel case. Friday, a $12 million wrongful death civil suit was filed by the estate of Eins Bloom. Monday, a $48 million class action on behalf of the other 6 victim families. My father's employer of 22 years terminated him for cause and sued him personally to claw back 3 years of bonuses and freeze his vested pension of $782,000 because subpoenaed company email accounts had been used for Ridgeline correspondence. The State Real Estate Commission suspended both of my parents' licenses pending revocation. My mother's name was added to the state's Public Elder Abuse Offenders Registry. The registry is public. Anyone can search it. Anyone will. Brady and Whitney had been released Sunday on Whitney's parents' money. On the following Wednesday, Whitney filed for annulment on grounds of fraud, citing Brady's Ridgeline signatory status as material misrepresentation. Whitney's father called Whitney's lawyer Tuesday. By Wednesday afternoon, Whitney was moving her things out of the apartment. Brady sat on the fire escape while she moved. He did not offer to help. She did not ask. Whitney's father stood on the sidewalk next to the moving truck with his arms folded. He looked up at Brady once. He did not look up again. If you have made it this far, subscribe to Family Secret Tales. There is one more visit, and it is the last thing. Brady came to the townhouse on a Sunday morning, 10 days after the wedding. The doorbell. On the small screen, he had lost about 8 pounds. His hair had not been cut. He was wearing a sweatshirt from college. In his hand was a manila envelope. Not a nice envelope, the one Whitney had left in the apartment when she went. He was holding it the way a man holds something he has not opened. The door opened because I wanted to know whether I wanted to close it. Sometimes you have to open a door to find out that closing it is what you want. Adrian, please. I did not know. His voice was rough. I signed papers. Mom asked me to. Dad said it was normal. I did not read them. Whitney did not read them. That is on us. I am not asking you to make this go away. I am asking you to say to Angela Prescott that I read them. If you say that, they will let me plead down to a misdemeanor. Adrian, please, I am your brother. No words came back. Whose keys were in Mom's clutch? He did not answer. There were 3 keys. Brady, 1 was hers. 1 was mine. The 3rd was Eins Bloom's. Mom had been carrying Eins Bloom's key for 8 weeks. Did you know that? No, say her whole name. Adrian, come on. Say her whole name. Eins Bloom. Mrs. Eanes Bloom, 51 years on Sycamore Terrace. She died in her kitchen. Say the address. I don't know the address. That is my point. The envelope came up between us, like a shield made of paper. I almost put my hand out to take it, the way I had put my hand out to take 100 things from Brady's hand across 31 years of being his older brother. My hand stayed at my side. Something behind his eyes changed. I have seen it in 3 depositions in my career. The moment a person who has been asking for mercy realizes the mercy is not coming, and decides that if they cannot take it home, they are going to make sure the person who withheld it does not get to keep it either. You know what, Adrian? Forget the envelope. Keep your paperwork. Keep your townhouse. Keep your little watch. Keep your little friend Andre and his mother, who thought she was your mother because your real one was busy raising the son who actually mattered. You know why you never had a family? Because you never wanted one. You wanted witnesses. You wanted an audience for how quietly injured you were. Mom is dying in a cell. Dad has not slept in 11 nights. My marriage is over. I am going to prison, and I will come out to a life that will not exist anymore. And you are on your porch drinking coffee like a man who won something. You did not win anything. You bought back some bricks a dead woman used to live in, and you thought it was going to make you whole. It was never going to make you whole. She was ashamed of you at the end. Did you know that? Grandma Ruth told Mom on the phone in 2008 that she wished you had called her back the week she left 3 messages. 3 messages, Adrian, and you did not call. Enjoy your bricks. Enjoy dying in them. Alone, he was breathing hard by the end. His face was red at the neck. The phone bill from the week Grandma Ruth died sat in a folder in my desk on the 2nd floor. There were no 3 messages. Grandma Ruth had died with her phone in her lap after a call to me that had lasted 22 minutes. That was a fact my brother did not know and did not need to know today. The door closed the way Grandpa Emmett had taught me to close a door in a house you cared about. It settled into the frame. The deadbolt turned. The kettle went on the burner. The blue ring came up under it. Brady stood on the front step for 11 minutes. My neighbor told me later, he did not knock again. He did not ring the bell again. He put the envelope down on the step. He picked it back up. He walked to his car. He sat in the driver's seat for another 14 minutes before the taillights went south on Kenwood. Brady's plea deal came through 8 days later without me having to say anything about whether he had read the papers. 11 months at a minimum security facility. 5 years of restitution to the estates of the 7 Ridgeline victims. Whitney's annulment was granted the same day, in the same courthouse, by a different judge. Whitney did not attend her own annulment. She had gone back to her parents' house in Springfield. Her father drove her there himself on the Sunday of the wedding weekend and stayed with her for 6 days. That was a thing Whitney's father did for her that my father would not have done for me on his best day. That is not bitterness. That is arithmetic. The front porch is small, 2 steps down to a brick walk. 1 wooden bench Grandpa Emmett built in 1961 that I found in the attic and refinished with linseed oil and a rag. The bench has his initials burned into the underside where nobody sees them. I did not know about the initials for the first year and a half. I found them 3 weeks ago when I flipped the bench to check the joins. The sun was just up this morning. The belova on my wrist read 647. My grandfather gave it to me on my 21st birthday, which was 4 years after he died. He had left it in an envelope with my name on it in the bank box Grandma Ruth kept. Grandma Ruth gave it to me the week I graduated college, in the small kitchen of the apartment above the hardware store. 3 months before she died. She said, "He wanted you to have it because you were the one who watched." She said, "Keep time or be kept by it." She had put too much sugar in my instant coffee that day because that was how Grandpa Emmett had taken his. I drank the whole cup. Andre came up the walk at 6:50 with 2 paper cups from the coffee place at the end of the block that opens at 6 on Sundays. He sat down on the top step because he knows the bench is mine. 1 cup came to me. Andre and I have been best friends since 6th grade. When my parents changed the locks on their house on my 19th birthday because I had told my mother I was not going to law school, Andre's mother Estelle drove across town to pick me up from the McDonald's parking lot where I was sitting in my car with a duffel bag. She did not say anything on the drive. When we got to their house, she set a plate for me at the kitchen table without asking, and she slid a small brass key across the table. "This is the back door. You do not knock at this house. I still have that key. It hangs on a nail on the inside of the door frame at my front entryway. From the porch, I can see it." Andre's coffee sat on the step beside him. He looked at my lip. It was healed. "Mom wants to know if you are coming Sunday." A nod, yes. "She is going to make the pot roast." Another nod. Across town, in a holding facility on Weld Avenue, my mother was on the 6th day of a hunger strike. Her lawyer had petitioned twice. Both denied. My father was at his brother's house on the west side, sleeping on a pull-out couch, because the house on Maple had been served with a lease pendens, and the AG Civil Recovery Unit was preparing to attach the deed. On the garage door of that house, the words "thieves and murderers" were still painted in 2-foot red letters, because my father had run out of painters and had run out of energy and had left the paint to dry into the metal. The porch nail where my mother's notary sign had hung for 19 years was still empty. The wood underneath was a different color. The front page of the Sentinel from Monday was still on my father's brother's kitchen counter, folded to hide the photograph, but everyone in the house had already seen it. There were no offers on the Maple house because the neighbors knew, and the neighbors' friends knew, and the whole street walked on the other side of it. My father had not turned on his porch light in 15 nights. My mother's phone, which he had been carrying, had stopped being charged Sunday. His pension of $782,000 was frozen. His deacon nameplate had been unscrewed from the wall of the Living Water Sanctuary and mailed back to him in a padded envelope with no letter inside. On my porch, on Kenwood Street, in the house Grandpa Emmett built in 1957 with his own 2 hands, Andre drank his coffee and I drank mine. The Belova ticked once, clean, on time. The brass key hung on its nail by the doorframe. My split lip was a thin line inside my mouth I could feel with my tongue when I was not paying attention. And the deed to the house was in a fireproof box in my closet. In a new location I had not told anyone about, folded once, with a small brown mark on one corner where my thumb had pressed against my lip when I put it in my jacket at 4:18 in the afternoon 28 days ago. Andre finished his coffee. He set the cup down on the step beside him. "You okay?" A nod. "You sure?" Another nod. The sun came up another half-inch. A neighbor 2 doors down let her dog out. The dog went to the tree and came back and went inside. The screen door closed. My grandfather had built these bricks. My grandmother had read maps at this table. My mother had signed away this house on a Wednesday in April of 1998. I had taken it back for $311,000 in cash and paid it off at 6:04 in the evening on a Wednesday 2 Novembers ago. This morning it was mine, in the sun, on a Sunday, with my best friend on the step and coffee going cold in my hand, and a small brass key from a woman who had loved me when my own mother would not, hanging by the door where I could see it every time I came home. If you have watched all the way here, subscribe to Family Secret Tales and share this with the one person in your life who taught you what a real door sounds like when it closes on the right side of it. My grandfather told me once that the watchers are the ones who keep the family honest. Sometimes the family they keep honest is the family you build, not the one you were handed. The watch on my wrist ticked once more. The coffee was still warm. The door behind me was locked.